Hi, this is Debbie McAllister, and this is Light Up Your Worth. I am so excited today to bring you my guest, Kerrie Campbell. Kerrie has 25 years of diverse global business experience across Fortune 500 companies and is now the founder of Live Your Sensational Life, a coaching and consulting company that focuses on helping career driven women and mothers step into their highest potential and achieve success in a way that allows them to thrive. She is passionate about helping women find and live their purpose and passion so that they can have the impact they truly desire and leave a legacy they are proud of. Welcome, Kerrie.
Thanks so much for having me, Debbie. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I am so excited. We have a very similar background, having spent most of my life also in global organizations in Fortune 500s. And so I am really excited to be able to explore your journey and how you got here. And so I wanted to kind of just jump in and start talking about that transition, when you go from being in a corporate, predictable, you know what to expect, you have help along the way, you have team members, to going from that type of an environment into an entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
Wow.
that has definitely been a transition, that's for sure. I think you summarized it very nicely with just all of the help that you do have in the corporate environment, all of the resources that you have access to, and then suddenly being on your own and you're the one that's now needs to do everything and be accountable for everything and be the person. But I think inside, it also really challenges you personally. It brings up a lot of things for you and it certainly did for me. And I think it does for a lot of people, but it certainly did for me. It brought up a lot of the beliefs or the things that I needed to look at um, to go out and be a successful entrepreneur. And that's even the identity of how I saw myself. So I'd spent my entire career in the corporate world. I never actually saw myself as an entrepreneur. It was a decision that I sort of made after my own spiritual awakening journey, and just the challenges that I'd faced from a personal perspective, raising kids, working really excessively, doing all that global travel, and hitting points of burnout and adrenal fatigue and all of that sort of stuff. And so it really made me assess where I was going in my life and what I wanted to do to be happy. And that, because I didn't see myself as an entrepreneur, I really had to almost do a lot of work around my own identity and now seeing myself in a very different role than what I'd held for so long in my life. So yeah, it was definitely a really interesting transition, not to mention recovering, I think, from a lot of the burnout and giving myself space around that recovery. I did a lot of inner work on this journey. I really tried to pull up a lot of my own belief systems, really challenge those, do a lot of rewiring of those beliefs to just allow me to have more empowering beliefs to move forward. And at the same time, I explored a lot of different subjects that I was extremely interested in, gone out and got a lot of certifications, which added a little bit to the fun. So,
Oh, that's a lot of fun, isn't it? All of the
mhm.
when you start opening up that door of spiritual awakening, you're like, oh, I want to learn about that. And I want to learn about that. I still have a list, I mean, the more I've learned, the more I've learned how much I don't know, continually growing. It kind of reminds me of corporate America because you were constantly challenged to learn, continually learn to be able to simply keep up
Mhm.
with it. I have heard that too. And I also experienced that when I first went out on my own, is that, and I had a coach actually say that in one of my coaching programs, Bill Barron. He says, if you want to discover all of your hidden limiting beliefs, go start your own business.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
Oh,
you have
yes.
to be so visible and
Yeah.
you can't stay in the background, and you have to figure out how to manage everything. What did you find on your journey? What was probably one of the biggest limiting beliefs areas that you would run across, and that you've seen with, all those uh, the women that you've worked with?
Yeah, I it's interesting because this is one of the biggest ones that I've faced, and I see it in many of my clients as well. Actually using my voice. That's a really big one, which has been a wound. Although I had a successful career, I was an executive in the corporate space. I think as women, there are times I worked in male dominated fields my entire career. So there are times where you feel that you can't always be fully vocal, or really use your voice. And that was a wounding I think I carried through from childhood right through my career as well. And that was a big one. So you talked about being seen and really showing up and being seen. So I had to really dig down to understand why I had that limiting belief, or the belief system around using my voice, and the fear of being seen, and then really do some work to challenge that. So I have been, as an example, I have been volunteering and guesting on podcasts as a way to go and use my voice. I'm looking at starting my own podcast. And so as I'm rewiring these beliefs, I'm trying to implement some action plans as well. And I see it in my clients, as I said, it's interesting. I think some of a lot of women that I deal with, and certainly this was my case too, we can end up with people pleasing tendencies depending on that career that we've had and our childhood and everything. And so I've had a few clients, as we've worked on being able to get them to use their voice and get them to speak up in situations where previously they just would have let something go or not said anything because they haven't wanted to rock the boat. And it's been really nice, both personally and professionally. I've seen a few different clients address something on a personal front that ended up going really well, having a difficult conversation that in the past she would have just let slide. But the conversation ended up going really well. And then she suddenly felt heard and she felt more comfortable being able to use her voice. And another client that did that in a professional setting, where she was able to use her voice and say what was on her mind to somebody that was more senior than her. And previously she thought, that she wouldn't have probably ever had that conversation. So it's been really great to see people work through that and just feel more empowered, as I have myself. And the more I've been able to use my voice.
Yeah, being able to use your voice. That is a really powerful thing to learn, because our words have energy, our what we accept, how we're treated with our voice. So, what if somebody is listening now and they're thinking, "Wow, I wish I would have spoke up about something,"
Mhm.
whether it's work or home or relationship with their children, even, or their parents. What's a simple way to even test themselves of, or try to start to break away some of that fear of speaking their truth?
Yeah, I really think it starts by, our self-talk is a big one. So really noticing, what are we telling ourselves in the moment? And so when we choose not to use our voice, then what are we telling ourselves afterwards? Because our self-talk, you mentioned the words being incredibly important, and that includes not just the words we speak, but the words that we also say to ourselves. So really watching the self-talk and really being able to, I guess, turn that around to feel that everyone has a right to say how they're feeling. Everyone has a right to use their voice. The style of how you do it and the interaction of how you do it maybe is an important point. um, but also just asking, well, what would I have been happy to say in that situation? What is something that I could have said in that situation? And then testing themselves maybe more in a safe environment, as well. So around people they're a little bit more comfortable with, but just testing themselves next time. So if they feel that they have something that they want to be able to say, then just test the ground a little bit and throw it out there, and then just check back in with themselves and see how they're feeling. Do they feel relief that they've said what they wanted to say? Do they feel proud of themselves? I always encourage my clients when they've done it to make sure that they just stop and just feel really proud of themselves that they actually were able to use their voice when they hadn't been able to before.
Oh, I love that. Being able to celebrate their
Mhm.
progress.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
really
even a
powerful.
small thing. So the one that I mentioned, my client that had a difficult conversation with a close friend of hers, I mean, that doesn't, it seems pretty minor in the big scheme of things, but it really becomes a big deal, especially when you just, constantly go feeling unheard or not wanting to rock the boat. And I think that celebrating that success, no matter how small, is really important to help empower us in our journey.
Yeah, I think that especially women haven't always had a voice.
Mhm.
So we inherit through our environment, through our ancestral line. Just, earlier today I was looking up some of my own my grandmothers, right? I was born in 1966, so I'm 56, and I was going back and looking at it, and I had one grandmother born in 1918 and the other one born 1920. And we didn't even get to vote until what,
Mhm.
1920, right? So
Mhm.
they were born into being raised by women who didn't have a voice, and then even carrying it on even in with good intentions, right? With us as we're raised, I don't know if one of the beliefs that comes up is where I was raised, my family coming from the South a lot, was that children are seen and not heard,
Mhm.
especially girls, right? Like we had to be polite.
Yep.
And we were very polite and well mannered, which is a good thing to have manners. But can also, I think, in the environment, when you're in a work environment or you're building something, I think it can kind of work its way in there and you don't even realize that type of belief is there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you raise a really important point. That our beliefs sit at our subconscious level, and we do pick up a lot of them through our childhood, and then because we hold those beliefs, we keep reinforcing them throughout the rest of our life, and it gets to a point where we're not always aware that they're there. We're not sure of the belief that is causing the habit or the behavior that we're expressing, and really make that connection unless we stop and think about it. But it's again a really great point. I know that they are some of the things that I have struggled with too, and see in my clients. I mentioned the people pleasing behaviors, or wanting to live up to everyone's expectations of you, and you don't want to say no, or you feel guilty, so it becomes hard for us to implement boundaries, or we're worried about what people might think of us. And often when we did grow up in homes, because I heard much the same as you, as children are seen and not heard. And, and we try and make ourselves small, and instead of taking up more space and making ourselves bigger, and that all does play out because we hold those beliefs at the subconscious level. It does play out in our behaviors and our habits, and obviously in our personal and professional lives.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested in hearing, really curious about and hearing about how then were you able to figure out where some of your limiting beliefs are in your subconscious, and like what tools, what did you use in your toolbox that you're now bringing into even working with, with others to help
Yeah,
them?
I filled my toolbox very full, and, which is great because I think you can help different people in so many different ways depending on what's going on. One of the biggest things for me was discovering my human design. And I know you've talked a little bit about
Yeah,
human design
I
on the
love human
show.
design. Yes.
It was so integral to me to understand who I am here to be. Who am I really? Because I had all of those behaviors that I just talked about, with the always feeling like I had to meet everyone else's expectations, always striving because somebody wanted something from me, or the people pleasing behaviors and all those tendencies, not being able to say no to things, just taking on so much and feeling like I had to prove myself. Human design actually showed me who I was here to be. And it also showed me why I'd hit burnout and adrenal fatigue in my career as well, because I didn't have the sustainable energy with the sacral. So I really was working against my type. But it also allowed me to say, well, this is who I'm here to be. And that really resonates with me. So what are all the behaviors that are keeping me from being this? And that was, one of the
Oh,
first tools that I really used to start digging into my own belief system. And that was really stopping me from being, I guess I call it, my most authentic self and who I'm here to be. And I do human design with all of my clients. That's how I start my coaching with them, because it really does give us an amazing roadmap on their journey of what they're trying to achieve. And it helps them find their passion and their purpose. And it just gives you so many amazing tools. So that was a really big one.
I'm going to repeat that question because it was really powerful. What behaviors are getting in my way of who I'm supposed to be?
Mhm.
Wow. That is a powerful, powerful self-discovery question.
Yeah, it really is. When you get information like that and you can start looking at, and even if you don't say have your human design, but you have an idea of what it is you want to be in life. And I think we innately deep down know, we have this intuition that tells us. And so if we really sit down and think about that and write it out, and then we look at where we are, using a question, a self-discovery question like that, I think can be really powerful and help us figure out what is stopping us from being this, what is stopping us from living this life or being this person that we really want to be.
Wow. That, like, I just thought to myself, wow, I need to go back and look at my I'm a 4/6, manifesting,
Mhm.
an emotional manifesting generator. And what was so interesting about what you were just sharing is that, and we go through my human design on a previous episode, which you're very familiar with
Yes,
Robin.
I love
And
that one.
I just adore Robin, just love her to pieces. And what was so powerful in learning the human design and what you're talking about with the behaviors, as I'll just use myself as an example, I am supposed to receive. And yet, most of my life, I have been driven, going for it, gonna just push my way through resilience, like not gonna stop. I get knocked down and I catch my breath and then I just keep going and going and going and going. And like you, worked way too much, way,
Mhm.
way, way, way too much, burnout, adrenal fatigue. And it's really powerful to be able to ask that question. What is what behaviors are pausing me to be able to be that person to receive? So um that's a really, really powerful question. I know I keep saying that because I think it's a question everybody could write down and just
Yeah.
ask themselves, and starting with your human design. So how else did you use human design to be able to help you on that journey to figure out, your purpose and who you were going to be? And
Yeah, so I dove deep into my chart. I got my hands on as much information as I could learn and absorb. It's a lot of layers to the human design, so it can be a little bit complex to learn right off the bat. But I just tried to absorb as much as I could, that and figured out what really resonated with me. And I ended up seeking out human design experts by finding them on podcasts or just whoever was out there. And I ended up doing 5 human design readings in, I think, just a little over a year, to learn my chart as much as possible. I joined a few different human design membership groups, and I ended up in a mastermind where I learned to do human design readings for other people. But that really helped me explore my gifts and my energy in my chart and what it's best suited to. And certainly, I think the biggest thing for me is that corporate environment wasn't the best environment for me because, like you, I'm actually a 4/6 emotional manifester, not a manifesting generator. So I don't have the sacral defined, which is the sustainable energy. And so I need more rest. There are times I wish I was a manifesting generator because I have so many ideas and I'd love to do so much, but I just don't have the same energy. And so that really helped me understand the best type of work situation for me is one where I have flexibility. And my design is actually where I get these downloads of ideas. So I'll get these creative urges that come in. Then I'm meant to do something with them, put them out in the world, and then rest until the next creative urge comes in. So from operating from that perspective, I needed more flexibility than the situation that I was in. And then just diving into the gifts in my chart, which is around people. So very much around people. Leadership was a big gift in my chart. And it was interesting because it's actually my incarnation cross, which is known as like our life purpose. And in human design, it's who we're here to be, not what we're here to do. And my incarnation cross is called the Cross of Rulership. And so that's all about leadership, but it's from a place of just allowing people to be themselves and giving them space and leading them in that way. And through when I look back on throughout my career, every single place I'd gone, I kept getting pulled into a leadership role, whether I never really put my hand up for it, but I kept getting put into leadership roles. And so I'd seen how that was playing out in my career. And then that allowed me to say, well, what can I do in my business going forward? And I think some of that is like helping women be really solid leaders in themselves and learn who they are here to be as a leader. And so, yeah, just really digging into different parts of my chart to figure out what are my gifts. Part of, my gift is being able to help women use their voice. It's a core wound of mine, but it's actually one of the greatest gifts that I'm here to share in my business. And so it's fascinating when you really learn to interpret the information and just see how it works and how you can structure your life around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know I'm still such a newbie. Now I want to go back and look at the cross on mine. Because now I'm like, oh, what is that? Because I can't remember it, right? There's certain things I can remember about it that are just very strong. But I think that's because you got to continually study, and like anything else, you got to keep plugged into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And because I'm talking about this all the time with people as well, I can have a conversation, with people or my clients, and they might just say one thing that indicates to me, oh, let's go look at your chart, and then we can pull information out from them. So it's really fun. But the biggest thing I love about human design is it gives people permission to be themselves. And that was something that was important to me as I really become my most authentic self, is that I am here to be who I'm here to be, but I might look at other people and think, oh, I wish I was more like that, or why can't I be more like that? Because that's what society expects, or that's what seems to be successful, or those people are getting success by doing this, but it may not be right for me. And I kind of innately know that, but my human design really shows me that I get permission to be myself, and that's how I'm going to be the most successful in my life.
Oh, I love that. Permission to be myself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that really, really resonates. Who doesn't want to have permission to be
Absolutely.
themselves?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was really one of the big reasons why I started the podcast. Is I felt like I was hiding a part of myself. I was hiding my spiritual side, like hiding in the closet. There was nothing to be hidden about. I wasn't able to use my voice and integrate all parts of me to be really who I was here to be.
Mhm.
So I commend you for going down that path and really stepping into it. It's so needed, especially now. Women really need to learn how to step into their own.
Yeah. And I love your story too, just that you being the manifesting generator that you are, you have a motor to your throat, and using your voice is incredibly important in your design too. And if this is something, even the name of your podcast really lights you up,
Yeah.
you're here to do what lights you up. And that's how you're going to be the most fulfilled in life. And so I think it's phenomenal that you've been on this journey as well, and you took that leap and really started this podcast and put yourself out there to work through it too. And now you're probably feeling that you're living more to what your passion is.
Oh, most definitely. This podcast brings me so much bliss
Mhm.
and getting to know people like you, Kerrie. And then what's even just so fulfilling is knowing that there's a listener who's been looking for you, Kerrie, and being able to connect that listener to you where they get to help themselves through what resonates with them so that they can be their more authentic self, step into who they're here to be, help them heal, help them gain their voice, be alignment with why they're here through learning, about different people or different modalities or methods of coaching or reading. I think that's why this year too, I expanded it to books. I've had authors on, I've had on therapists, because I think all of it can all work together to bring us to that area. So having been able to connect the two, connect you with an audience,
Mhm.
that is, I think the essence of everything. So I think if I go back and look at my chart, I think it's about connect. Mine is about connection.
Yes.
I don't have to be the expert on everything and be that person like you are being with others. I am there to connect the two people together.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's your line four. Very much your line four is all about the connector too, and leveraging your network and really be wanting to bring people together and build a community, which you're just doing in such a beautiful way with this podcast and what you're putting out there.
Yeah, it's really the word is a very peaceful coming together internally when I go to do my own work, when I end my day with a meditation and do energy work playing in the background. It's really very peaceful in learning how to be present and remain present in my own life. And so I offer that gift to everybody. If we're talking and they think, wow, I really would like to work on my own voice. What's holding me back from being this other part of my life? Now, I also wanted to bring up or hear about what other tools in your toolbox were part of that.
Yeah, so as I said on my journey, I got so excited and I wanted to explore all the things. So I jumped into a bunch of different, just heading down a path that was calling me. I ended up doing some intuitive work, so learning really to tap into my own intuition, do intuitive readings for people. I did Akashic Records reading certification. So I've been reading Akashic Records. I'm now a board certified clinical hypnotherapist as well. And so that really allows me to get in and help rewire some of those beliefs to be more empowering beliefs. I'm currently studying NLP, and I've just done my Psych K certification. So I'm a Psych K facilitator, which also is just another phenomenal method to really help just rewire those beliefs that we have and just instill those more empowering beliefs in us. So a lot of different things. But really a lot of it focuses at that subconscious level, because that's where I really believe, I mean, our subconscious holds 95% of our beliefs that we don't even know are there often, as we already mentioned. And so really being able to find those beliefs, dig them up, and then rewire that subconscious to be more in alignment with what our conscious mind wants to create in this world is really where I do a lot of my focus in this work.
Wow, that's a really magical combination. I hadn't heard of Psych K, that technique of rewiring. And so I found that really interesting because you can blend that with the Akash records and
Mhm.
now NLP, human design. I mean, that is quite the wheelhouse of being
Yeah.
able to get to different ways, different methods to be able to help based upon people's human design. Hey, what's
Yeah.
actually going to help them get to where they need to go to be able to use their voice.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think it's one thing for us to consciously be aware of, we have this belief and this is what we would like to believe instead. But unless we dig down and really do that reprogramming at the subconscious mind level, that's where we can run into, we're still being stopped and we're still being blocked, even though we really want this thing or we're chasing this goal or want whatever it is that we have in life, but we might find ourselves procrastinating about it or coming up with any excuse, or and it's again like those beliefs that are sitting at the subconscious level that are really holding us back. And so it's just a really, I mean, I'm very happy with the toolkit that I have to be able to just pull these processes out and really customize them and tailor them to what people's needs are, depending on what those beliefs are for them and their experiences as well, and to be able to utilize these in really different ways and just see women blossom. I've seen just some of my clients just really blossom and come out of their shell and just get so much more confident in who they are as a person and start really leaning into that, developing that self-worth, developing the self-love, but the self-acceptance more than anything, and stop rejecting
Mm.
parts of themselves, because that's a big part of our journey.
Oh, wow. Yes. Not rejecting different parts of ourselves. Wow. That's a meaty subject right there.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Yeah, being able to accept all parts of ourselves, even
Mhm.
those ones that, are over there in the corner and we know kind of they're there, they keep popping up.
Absolutely. And that's the shadow work too. And it's really being able to face the shadows that we often just want to hide behind the curtain and just keep hidden and pretend that they're not there and just ignore as much as possible. But they always come back up. It's like trying to keep a beach ball under the water. The moment you let it go, it's going to bounce back up.
Yeah, isn't that true? What a great analogy, the beach ball. The Have you found patterns with clients that you're working with on some of the shadow work that is coming into accepting even the parts that we want to reject, without accepting all parts of ourselves?
Yeah, a lot of it has stemmed from, unfortunately, from early childhood experiences or childhood experiences, and really being forced to be forced into different systems or to different beliefs, having strong beliefs, or having parents that maybe weren't as present, or maybe a little bit neglectful. And so just some of what I see coming up from those experiences is just the belief, and I think most of us hold the belief that I'm not good enough, but just that level of self-worth, or who I am as a person is not good enough. So it almost just seems like a very kind of core deep belief that has just been ingrained from such an early age. And so that's definitely a pattern that I see popping up in my clients as well. And really that is what's holding them back from feeling fully accepted as a person, and even not accepting all parts of themselves with that shadow work. So being able to face those parts of themselves that they just really have not been even accepting.
Hmm. Yeah. Have you found that when we can accept some of that or get closer to full acceptance, I think it's a lifelong journey,
Mhm.
that we're constantly, you work through one area and then because we're living every day, we have opportunities to be triggered or something reminds us of something and that we didn't
Mhm.
even know was there. So as we continue on the journey, but I'm, I just lost my thought. Sorry. Oh my gosh. But as we go through that whole acceptance and
Mhm.
how it shows up in our lives, I think it's a little bit more unexpected when people don't always, until you start down what I believe is the spiritual journey, that
Mhm.
you don't really realize that, oh, that's just how I am. Well, not necessarily, like I'm an oldest child. And it was different in the 70s how we were raised. Our parents had to work really, I think people still have to work really hard, but I think
Mhm.
the beliefs, the collective beliefs, very different than how children are mostly now.
Yes, very much so.
Like I think about all the parents who work 2 or 3 jobs, just
Mhm.
to be able to provide for their children. They were doing the best they could.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes I don't want to always leave the impression too that everybody was raised in parents, single or
Mhm.
we were the age of divorce. So we saw, I think my generation saw a lot of divorce, but I think it's goes even beyond that of just what was more acceptable for
Mm.
us. Like we were locked, the keys around our neck.
Mhm.
We came home and took care of things. And so when I think about it in the context of what you're talking about, like the leadership role, yeah, well, no wonder I grew up to be a leader in all my roles, corporate roles, like yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We had to be independent from an early age. I was the latchkey child as well. And both my parents worked, and I always thought that was a good thing throughout my career because it felt like it instilled a really good work ethic in me. That obviously maybe went to the extreme though. That's the downside.
Yeah.
But I do think that the benefit is we grew up being really independent. We could be leaders and we could manage ourselves and become very self-motivated. So
Mhm.
there's definitely some positives out of it. And generationally, yes, it's a very different in the last even 15, 20 years is very different. I think.
Right. Yeah. And I love, that you can help a career driven women and moms start to take all of that energy, understand themselves. I think self-awareness is really
Mhm.
critical, understanding, their human design, how it comes into play, and being able to use these different techniques that you've studied to be able to pull it all together. So I'm super excited that you're able to do that for people. Uh,
Yeah, it's I feel very fortunate that I get to do this work. It really truly is rewarding to be able to see people just grow and develop that self insight and develop that self acceptance to become, and create the life that they really want to be living
mhm.
without
Yeah.
all. Yeah.
Right. Now, if somebody is interested, Carrie, in reaching out to you, how can they find you?
So on my website is liveyoursensationallife.com. And I'm also on Instagram and it's at coaching by Kerrie, which is Kerrie. So they're probably the two best ways to reach me. I also do have some freebies on my website as well. So I actually have a 5-day mini course called Progressing with Purpose. And that's to help people set goals and get really motivated to work towards their goals. But I build in some subconscious tricks, some tips and tricks to really get our subconscious on board and aligned with moving towards those goals. So I do go through some processes in there to help do some limiting belief busters, really go explore what those limiting beliefs are and just work through them to progress. And I also have a inner critic, 5 steps to really mastering your inner critic guide on there, because that's another thing I know a lot of women that I certainly work with have not a very nice inner critic. And that's one thing I think that we all need to really get rid of as quickly as possible. So there's a few
Oh,
tools on there.
those are wonderful tools. I hope people go to your website um, and pick those up. I mean, who wouldn't want to work with understanding their inner critic
Mhm.
and being able to, move around that and really step more fully into who they really are, you know,
Yeah. Yeah,
with
without holding ourselves back.
right. I really think everybody's birthright is to have a radiant life and to be able to do that and walk through like this journey that you've done. You took this opportunity to really understand yourself and now to help other women find their voice and make such an investment in your own personal growth with all
Mhm.
of these tools. That's just really admirable. So thank you, Kerrie.
Mm. Yeah.
And I really love that you're here. And I hope that our listeners will reach out and they'll connect with you and they'll be able to find their own voice.
Thank you so much for having me on, Debbie. It's been a lot of fun. I really appreciated the conversation, and thank you for the opportunity of connecting me with your audience too.
Yeah, thank you.